Clough's Expert Series podcast. My name is Jillian Formentin and I am a very proud Clough engineer. It is my privilege and I am very excited, in fact, to interview our special guest who I will introduce to you in a moment. And we're going to be talking about targeting net zero. This is Hayley Wheatley. She's a graduate process engineer and she really is an exceptional young engineer and we are absolutely very, very lucky to have her at Clough. And just to give you a bit of an idea about this human being, is she has won several industry awards and has a bit of a list. So the Chevron Woodside Chair in Subsea Tieback Engineering Prize in Gas Processing, the ICME Prize in Chemical Engineering Design, Project 1 and 2, Chevron Chair Prize in Gas Processing Engineering, and Clough Scholars Program Scholarship, which is one we're most proud of course. So when she joined Clough 2 years ago, she quickly became known as a smart, inclusive, curious, and the future of engineering. I'm thrilled that Hayley could take the time out to have this very important conversation about all our futures and targeting net zero. So welcome. It's quite a list, Hayley.
Wow, what an introduction. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You are very welcome. And I'm really curious to find out some of your views about targeting net zero. We've talked about this in the past, and I know that it's something that's kind of shaped your decisions to even enter like a career in engineering. But before we get into the sustainability and the future and all of that, I'd love to find out a little bit about you. So maybe share a bit about yourself. Your choice for this career is recent, so maybe some of what shaped your views to become an engineer. And what do you love most about working at Clough?
Yeah, okay. So I studied engineering at UWA. I started kind of 8 years ago and I finished high school. But in uni, I had kind of got quite involved. I was involved with our chapter, the uni chapter of Engineers Without Borders, and our University Dance Society, where I met a lot of friends at uni, and also met my partner, Shil, who's also an engineer. So we have lots of engineering-related discussions at home, and we also have undertaken the challenge of building a house in a very difficult time. It's been very patience testing. But yeah, I was born and raised here in Perth, but I love travelling. I have been very fortunate that I've done quite a lot since I've finished high school. I was actually just finished a 3-month trip just as I started at Clough 2 years ago. And then COVID kind of kicked off. So squeezed that one in, but now I'm kind of itching to get going again. I kind of am quite passionate about food. I'm a big foodie, and I spend a lot of time with my family over meals and enjoying food more together. But kind of why I chose engineering wasn't really something I had considered for myself early in high school. I was quite set on being a pharmacist. I don't really know why I chose that either, but for some reason I did. And then started working in a pharmacy, decided that that's not what I wanted to do. I mean, I still worked there for 7 years after that, but I decided it wasn't what I wanted to do for my career and hadn't really considered engineering. What I thought engineering was from maybe a careers talk in year 10 when someone came in and spoke about they were a mechanical engineer talking about their final year project, kind of redesigning a motorbike. And it went straight over my head. I don't care about motorbikes. So that's what I thought engineering was. And I was like, nah, not for me. And so I had heard my mum encouraging it for my sister because my mum worked in engineering companies, and when my sister was finishing school, it was kind of the beginning of the boom. So it was like, there's lots of work, consider it, but hadn't really done the same thing for me. And when I came to year 12 chemistry and we started learning about kind of the real industrial processes like the Haber process and things like that, I found my real interest in that. I thought, this is something that I think I really want to do. And when I kind of found that was more like chemical engineering pathway, that's kind of what led me to choosing that. I was good at maths, good at science, and this is kind of what I like. Okay, let's try that. Wasn't until I kind of got to uni and started learning about kind of the skills of what an engineer develops that I realised that it's these skills that we can use to kind of solve some real world problems. It kind of made me more passionate about engineering. So that's kind of what led me to choosing it, and then kind of why I stuck with it and became quite passionate about it. And then when I chose to come to Clough, that was kind of a decision that was driven by the fact that I didn't really know what industry I wanted to be in. And Clough kind of takes on projects in kind of a range of industries and on a real scale of sizes of projects. And that was also something I liked about Clough, is the size of the company itself. So we're small enough that you can really get your hands in on a project, but big enough that we get some really cool kind of big projects as well.
And I can really see the way the future opened up for you as you went through your schooling and came kind of in this direction. And it's been, from all accounts, it's been like, what do they say, a duck to water? Like that you're expressing yourself here as an engineer is pretty cool.
Yeah. And I think the fact that we can, here at Clough, actually, Jason Ponosh, our construction director, recently asked me if I have two left hands or a left hand and a right hand. I looked at him blankly. Jason, I've got no idea what that means. He was like, okay, are you just really technical? Do you have good technical knowledge, or are you technical and practical? And at the time I was like, I'd like to think that I'm technical and practical. But it's here at Clough, I think, that you could develop both of those sides, which is something that I really was interested in kind of delving into as well for my development.
That's great. That's a really good thing to see, because I'm going to ask you a little bit later on in our conversation about how, what advice we might have for people that are, faced with making the same kind of choices you've made over the last 8 or 10 years. And that's a really important part, isn't it? Because you don't want to get too stuck somewhere.
Yeah.
And Clough is a fabulous opportunity. You could explore several chapters of your career without having to move employer. How about that?
And I think everything's moving so quickly kind of in society now. We have to be adaptable and...
We count on it. Count on for it. Oh, good. Well, let's get into this net zero future. I mean, it's kind of what everybody's talking about, right? And that there's all sorts of media about it, and it's certainly something our clients are interested in. But why do you think it's important that we're attending to a net zero future?
I think it's just a necessity that we've kind of, as a society, a global society, have been putting off for a bit too long. And we've got to a stage where we have to do something now. And I think it's something that a lot of people, particularly kind of the younger generation and even the generation kind of younger than me, is really passionate about, because I suppose there's a sense of frustration that we haven't kind of done more already, and then a sense of real kind of responsibility that we need to be doing something now, because it's not like it's a few more generations that are going to be impacted by it. It's now in kind of the next 50 years that we're really going to see. If we don't do it now, it's too late.
Yeah, I think it's a really good insight, because I think over the last 50 years or even longer, we've been very interested in the innovation of how we can make more with less, and, grand projects, and maybe not seeing the consequences of some of them.
Yeah.
And now, where the consequences of some of them are getting more obvious, there's a real drive to, we need to attend.
Yeah.
And then bring action to that, don't we?
Yeah, exactly.
And it's kind of an extension from that, but when we think about clients, what do you think they want from us, or they need from us about this?
I think there's probably a few things. I think they need to see that we're adaptable, because, we've had a kind of long history, over 100 years here in Perth, of solving kind of problems that we've had and bringing infrastructure in industries that are quite mature. And we have a lot of experience in that. And now we're moving into industries that are quite new or have a lot of challenges still to overcome. And I think we need to kind of demonstrate that we are adaptable, and we can transfer all these skills that we have into an industry that just has a slightly different technology and works a bit differently, but we are able to transfer those skills across. Then also need to be still innovating ourselves. So there's things that we've been doing for a long time that have worked well, but maybe aren't the best way to be doing it now. I suppose if it ain't broke, don't fix it isn't really going to cut it for much longer. Is there a better way to do it? Let's try and move towards that way if we can. And then I also think what we need to do kind of for our clients is that we need to be collaborative. That's one with them. So some of these things that we need to move towards aren't yet there. They're not really feasible financially, or they still have some challenges to overcome technically. I think we need to collaborate with them and highlight where these gaps are, so that we can kind of make it happen and get there as soon as we can. but then also finds those right partners with other companies who have the expertise in areas where we have gaps, which is something we've done for a very long time. I mean, we sort of joint ventures is very common.
It's our bread and butter.
Yeah, exactly. But continuing to do that and find new partners who have those skills in different areas that we don't. And so we can bring kind of our expertise and bring their expertise, kind of marry it together to get a solution for the clients that really work for them as well.
Yeah, that's brilliant, Hayley. Every now and again I have the thought, maybe we haven't even really discovered what true collaboration is, and that's what we're out to create. Like, it's that kind of creating what we need to create kind of stage, isn't it?
Yeah, and I suppose with some past projects, I don't know any that I've worked on, but have heard stories of when you get towards the end of a project, it can be a kind of an us and them, and we're just trying to deliver. But if it can be kind of collaborative the whole way through, we're continuing to kind of solve problems together, we'll get the outcome we want in the end, which would be great.
Very good. That's clearly that kind of project execution is what you're interested in.
Yeah.
And I know you early in your career, what kind of things do you want to achieve for your clients when you kind of look out at the project work that might be in your future, maybe even some current work? What do you, and it might be you and your team around you, but what do you personally want to be achieving for our clients?
I think I would like to see some of these things implemented in practice. Like, this can work, and look, here's how it works. I suppose there's so much talk of these new industries, and we're kind of getting there, but if we could kind of see it and achieve that for them, that in a financially kind of feasible way, that we can do it again and again and again, that would be kind of what you would hope for the clients, that kind of they're happy with what it is, and we're also quite happy because we've kind of really achieved it for ourselves as well. So I think that's a bit challenging, but we've found a way to make it work.
That's very good. It sounds, it's almost like a whole new paradigm in project delivery, isn't it?
Yeah, but I think it's not going to be too different to what we do. Like, it's not like it's going to be we have to completely change our way of working. It's just pick up what we're doing and kind of tweak it to make it work for something else. And
maybe even a context shift, because it's, I've worked in Perth for 25 years and as an engineer for nearly 30, and sometimes the context can easily shift to, or like you said, let's try and getting it done at the end kind of thing, and like trying to stop bad thing happening rather than really still creating the good things. What if the norm was continual creation for the whole project? And I really think that's certainly what we're out to achieve, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think it's going to be a challenge because you're going to need time to kind of overcome challenges that a project comes across along the way. And I know that kind of we get a schedule and we need to meet it. So I think making kind of planning for that at the front end of a project and making sure there is that time to kind of adapt along the way is also quite important for something that we're maybe not as experienced or well versed in. Would be important.
It's good, and it engages all our fabulous minds the whole way through too. That's really excellent. And I mean, it might be a bit of it's definitely an imagining question, but what do you think that would make available for in the future? Like, what's possible if that was the norm, like the way you kind of create, problem-free construction?
Maybe optimistic of me to say there's not any problem with problem-free construction, but I don't think there's always going to be challenges along the way, and that's, I suppose, what we are as engineers, as professional problem solvers. So that is our bread and butter, is let's find a way to overcome this the best we can.
Or what's possible for our projects if we weren't kind of consumed by catching up and all of that?
Oh yeah, okay. So I think we would be at kind of ahead of the game if we don't need to always catch up. We can then be in a position that we're making the best choices going forward, rather than trying to fix kind of challenges that we've had kind of past. We're then kind of forward planning, and then we have some space to adapt and innovate, because if you kind of just want to fix things, there's not really that much room to innovate. So if you are kind of ahead of the game there, you kind of have that space to throw things up in the air and see where they land, but in a positive light. Yeah.
Very good. And I think, like with our targeting net zero, that's what it's going to take. We need to have access to every bit of innovation and ingenuity and genius in our thinking to be able to meet these challenges, don't we?
Yeah.
And if we get consumed by concerns for and the catching up and that whole thing, it does rob us of the opportunity of being able to really meet together and really create this future that we need. Like you said, it's urgent now, isn't it?
Yeah.
We need to meet these challenges, and I find that super exciting.
Me too.
It really it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
So when you think about, again, short career so far,
Yeah.
make yourself feel old when I say that. What are you most proud of in your career so far? It might be here at Clough, or it might be some other part leading your way here. Right? But what are you most proud of?
Okay. I actually think most proud of would probably be what I've done in kind of an outreach space. It's been kind of what's kind of driven me to keep going, and that's why now I've been kind of involved in that here at Clough, and I kind of get excited about it. So while I did a lot of work with kind of Engineers Without Borders and promoting appropriate technology and sustainable solutions to kind of a younger generation, and I was kind of really kind of quite passionate about that when I was sharing that, and that's something I'm quite proud of, and that's opening, I suppose, their eyes to a different possibility for engineering, that it doesn't just have to be kind of the projects that we have seen, building bridges, which are of course important, we need them, but there is a space where you can do something really kind of quite extraordinary with engineering as well. I think that's probably what I've been most proud of.
Very, very cool. It's got a global reach and a humanity reach.
Yeah.
Very good. And that really leads me to what might be my last question. We do, as you know, right, and I know you've participated in our schools outreach programs as well, when we talk to young people about career. I mean, some of it is shamelessly, we need more engineers, and like we're working with schools so that we can make sure that they're the right people are following those lines of exploration.
Yeah.
But it's a challenging set of decisions to make when you're moving from, through your schooling and out into the world. But I think particularly over the last 5 years, what I hear from even the youngest kids we speak to are 6-7 years old, and some of the older ones are ones that are, up there, senior high school, and maybe even entering university. They all want a sustainable future. They all want to be part of the solution to the issues of the world that they see plastered over social media and the news. What would be your advice to people making those decisions? What would you say to the young people when they're exploring the mark they want to make in the world?
I think there's probably many paths now you can take to make an impact there, but engineering is definitely one of the paths that is required for us to get there. I mean, we've been engineers, as I said, professional problem solvers is what I usually say to someone who's like, what is engineering? That's really globally of all engineers what we are. I suppose we've been solving problems in our world for a very long time as engineers, and we're not running short of problems. They might be changing a bit, but they're still there, maybe even bigger ones that we're a bit too scared to try and tackle, but that kind of engineering space is one that's really open to start making a dent on some of those more scarier challenges. But then also, who's to say that some of the solutions we've had to our kind of everyday challenges of getting energy and kind of clean water and things like that. I mean, we've had solutions for a long time, but are they the best ones we could have? Is there a new solution out there that is better and more efficient and will help us reach those goals sooner? Probably yes. And so kind of exploring those solutions is also really exciting. So I think it's a space that's going to continue to evolve, but I like to encourage people to kind of consider it as not just being kind of maths and head in a book and things like that. It's kind of a lot more than that as well.
Very good. I love how you created that, Hayley. You can hear the pathways for people to exploring one poet said their one precious life.
Yeah.
And to make the biggest difference. I mean, engineering is definitely not for anyone. There
Yeah,
is
yeah.
the maths and the science,
Yeah.
and there's all of that. You
Can't
need
forget
to-
that part. I mean, it's still there, definitely.
It is, but being able to build that toolkit and have a direct access to being able to make the kind of difference that you're describing, what a better way to spend your life.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good.
Very, very cool. Hayley, thank you for talking to us today.
Thank you for having me.
You're very, very welcome. So we've been speaking with Hayley Wheatley, one of our most exciting graduate engineers, and talking about the access and maybe some of the pathways to truly targeting a net zero future, which really is our job now. So thank you.
Thank you.
Please tune in next time when we will bring another Clough expert engineer to the microphone to talk about important issues to the engineering and construction industries.